Welcome to Wisdom Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2763 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. Wisdom Trek, the architect of light, robed in splendor, riding the wind. Today, we embark on a grand new expedition. We are stepping into the vast, open cathedral of creation as we begin our journey through Psalm 104. We will be exploring the opening movement, verses 1 through 9, in the New Living Translation. In our previous treks through Psalm 103, we heard King David command his soul to bless the Lord. That psalm was a masterpiece of historical and redemptive praise. It focused on forgiveness, healing, and God's fatherly compassion toward our frailty. It ended in the heavenly throne room, with the angels and the armies of heaven joining the song. Psalm 104 begins with the exact same phrase, "Let all that I am praise the Lord." But the focus shifts entirely. If Psalm 103 was about the God of grace, Psalm 104 is about the God of nature. This is a poetic retelling of Genesis chapter 1. It describes Yahweh not just as the Redeemer of Israel, but as the cosmic architect who builds the universe like a house, wraps himself in light like a garment, and rides the wind like a chariot. It challenges the pagan worldviews of the ancient Near East head-on, declaring that the storms, the sea, and the sun are not rival gods, they are merely the tools and servants of the one true King. So, let us open our eyes to the wonders of the world and behold the glory of the builder. The first segment is the royal vestments, light and space. Psalm 104, verses 1 through 2. Let all that I am praise the Lord. O Lord my God, how great you are! You are robed with honor and majesty. You are dressed in a robe of light. You stretch out the starry curtain of the heavens. The psalmist begins with a personal burst of adoration. Let all that I am praise the Lord. O Lord my God, how great you are! This isn't just a statement of size, it is a statement of status. Greatness Gadol here implies royal magnificence. The psalmist immediately describes God using the imagery of a king getting dressed for a state occasion. But this king does not put on silk or velvet. You are robed with honor and majesty. You are dressed in a robe of light. In the ancient Israelite worldview, light was the very first element of creation. Let there be light. Here, the psalmist poetically imagines that before God created the world, he wrapped himself in that primal light. Light is his uniform. It signifies purity, glory, and visibility. While the pagan gods were often associated with darkness or chaos, Yahweh is the God who wears the photon as his cloak. Then the architect begins the construction. You stretch out the starry curtain of the heavens. This corresponds to day 2 of creation, the separation of the waters and the creation of the expanse, the firmament. The psalmist views the sky not as a terrifying void, but as a tent. God stretches out the heavens like a camper pitching a tent. This imagery conveys two things. 1. Ease. Creating the universe was as easy for God as setting up a piece of fabric. 2. Habitation. The universe is designed to be a dwelling place, a cosmic tabernacle where God and his creatures can meet. The second segment is the cosmic chariot riding the storm. Psalm 104, verses 3 through 4. You lay out the rafters of your home in the rain clouds. You make the clouds your chariot. You ride upon the wings of the wind. The winds are your messengers. Flames of fire are your servants. Having pitched the tent of the sky, the divine architect now builds his upper chambers. You lay out the rafters of your home in the rain clouds. Literally, he lays the beams of his upper chambers in the waters. In the ancient cosmology, there were waters above the firmament. God is pictured as building his royal palace, his loft apartment, if you will, right in the middle of these celestial waters. This asserts his dominance over the chaotic element of water. He isn't afraid of the flood. He uses it as the foundation for his floor. Then the imagery shifts from architecture to transportation. You make the clouds your chariot. You ride upon the wings of the wind. This is a direct, polemical challenge to the Canaanite god Baal. In the ancient texts of Ugarit, Baal was explicitly titled the rider on the clouds. He was the storm god who brought rain and fertility. The psalmist is stripping Baal of his title and giving it to Yahweh. He is saying, no, Baal doesn't ride the storm, Yahweh does. The storm clouds are merely God's royal vehicle. The wind is merely the engine of his chariot. This is divine council theology in action, claiming supreme authority for Yahweh over all the forces of nature that the nations worshipped as gods. The winds are your messengers. Flames of fire are your servants. The New Living Translation translates this well, but the Hebrew word for messengers is malachim, angels, and servants is mesharatim, ministers. This verse is quoted in Hebrews chapter 1, verse 7. It connects the physical elements, wind and lightning, fire, with the spiritual beings. In God's economy, the boundary between the natural and the supernatural is porous. The winds and the lightning are not rogue forces, they are the angels or messengers of the King. They do his bidding. When the lightning strikes, it is a servant running an errand for the Creator. The third segment is the foundations of the earth, stability out of chaos. Psalm 104, verses 5 through 9. You placed the world on its foundation so it would never be moved. You clothed the earth with floods of water, water that covered even the mountains. At your command the water fled. At the sound of your thunder, it hurried away. Mountains rose and valleys sank to the levels you decreed. Then you set a boundary for the seas, so they would never again cover the earth. Now, the focus moves downward from the sky to the land. This corresponds to day 3 of creation, the emergence of dry land from the primeval waters. You placed the world on its foundation so it would never be moved. In a world that often felt chaotic and unstable, the psalmist affirms the structural integrity of the earth. God is the master engineer who anchored the planet. It is secure. But before the land appeared, there was chaos. You clothed the earth with floods of water, water that covered even the mountains. This describes the primeval state of Genesis 1. 2. The Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. This deep Tehom was a chaotic, lifeless ocean that completely submerged the planet. In pagan myths, this chaotic sea was often a monster, Tiamat or Yam, that the Creator God had to fight in a desperate battle. But notice how Yahweh handles the chaos. At your command, the water fled. At the sound of your thunder, it hurried away. There is no battle, there is no sweat, there is only a command, literally a rebuke. Yahweh speaks, and the mighty ocean panics. The word hurried away, shafaz, implies fear or haste. The water is terrified of the voice of the Creator. God's thunder acts as a dog whistle that drives the chaotic waters back into their place. Then we see the sculpting of the geography. Mountains rose and valleys sank to the levels you decreed. As the waters receded, the topography of the earth emerged. The tectonic plates shifted, the mountains punched through the surface, and the valleys were carved out. All of this happened to the levels you decreed, or to the place you established for them. Geology is obeying theology. The landscape is taking the shape that the architect intended. Finally, God establishes the law of the sea. Then you set a boundary for the seas, so they would never again cover the earth. This is the ultimate guarantee of order. In the ancient mind, the sea was always threatening to come back and swallow the land, as it did in the flood of Noah. But here the psalmist asserts that God has drawn a line in the sand. He has set a boundary Gebel. This boundary is a covenant promise. Chaos is allowed to exist, but it is not allowed to rule. The waters act as a garment for the earth, but they are not allowed to become a shroud. God has locked the doors of the deep so that life can flourish on the dry land. Psalm 104, verses 1 through 9, gives us a breathtaking picture of our God. He is not a distant, abstract concept. He is a hands-on creator. He wears light. He pitches the sky tent. He builds his palace on the rain. He drives the cloud chariot. He shouts at the ocean, and it obeys. This passage reminds us that the world we live in, the nature we hike through and admire, is actually a temple. Every wind that blows is his messenger. Every mountain is a monument to his power over chaos. As we walk our trek today, let us look at the sky and the clouds differently. Let us remember that we are walking through the house of the great King, and let our souls bless the Lord for his magnificent architecture. If you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us, and come along tomorrow for another day of Wisdom-Trek, Creating a Legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, mentor, and most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through this Wisdom-Trek podcast and journal. As we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward. Enjoy your journey and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom